All right, today's lecture is on section 1.1, and the title of this section is What is Chemistry? As you read through this section, I hope a lot of this seemed familiar to you from your previous experiences. However, if it doesn't, my intent here today is to help clarify any confusion you may have. The official definition of chemistry is the science of materials and the changes that they undergo. You need to know this definition. It will be on your test. It will be on your final. You will see this repeatedly, even on quizzes. The reason why your book uses the term materials is because it doesn't want to use any terms it hasn't defined yet for you. So what I want you to understand is that the word materials means substances, elements, compounds, and mixtures. All of those terms can be substituted for the term material. Chemicals are all around us. Take a look at the pictures that I've included on this slide. Toothpaste that we use, our phones, batteries, recharging sources, all of these involve chemicals. We cannot live without chemicals. Chemicals can be good and bad. We need water to survive, but we can drown in just a quarter inch of water. Regardless, we are dependent on chemicals. Last week, when you completed your book scavenger hunt, I also asked you to complete a graphic organizer for matter, and you had to search through chapter 1 in order to answer the questions and organize your information. This slide is intended to help you understand the three main types of matter, and also to introduce to you a fourth type of matter that you may not be aware of. Solids, liquids, and gases are things that you're familiar with. Solids are fixed in their shape and their volume. Their particles vibrate in place. They don't have a lot of room to move. They are in constant motion, but they're not sliding around. Liquids, they take on the shape of their container, but their volume is fixed. They only take up so much space. The particles of a liquid have enough room in order to pass each other by, simply by sliding by each other. So if you look at the demonstration that I have with the particles in the bottom right-hand corner, the motion is that the top layer is going to the right, the bottom layer is going to the left. They can slide past each other. Gases do not have any fixed volume or shape. Their particles completely are free to move. They bounce off of each other, and they bounce off of the walls of their container. Because gases do not have a fixed shape or volume, they completely fill their container, and they take on the shape of their container. The fourth and final type of matter that is not well understood is plasma. Plasma is very rare on Earth, but it is the most abundant type of matter in the universe. The particles of plasma have little to no order to them at all. The most common form of plasma that we can see is lightning. We don't really talk too much about plasma in our class, but I wanted to make sure we discussed it. Matter can change in one of two ways. Matter can undergo a physical change or a chemical change. Let's take a look at physical changes first. Physical changes occur when the properties of a particular chemical do not change. Take a look at the picture up in the upper right corner. It's a pot of boiling water. The water is going from liquid to gaseous states. There is no chemical change at all. Steam is made of water. Liquid water is made of water. They're both H2O. Key words when you're reading that help you to know that a change in matter is physical include melting, freezing, boiling, cutting, and grinding. Of course, there are more. I just wanted to give you a short list. Chemical changes are also known as chemical reactions. The reactants are written on the left-hand side of an equation. An arrow separates them from the products, which are on the right-hand side of an equation. That'll become more important as we move on throughout the year. A chemical reaction is when chemical properties change for a substance. Take a look at the picture on the bottom left. The wood is burning. When the fire goes out, we don't have any more wood left. We have ash. the wood has changed its chemical properties. That tells us that we have a chemical change whenever something burns. Some key words when you're reading that indicate chemical changes include rotting, digesting, burning, and corroding. Of course, again, there's more, but I just wanted to give you some examples. So now you're probably wondering, how do you know if a change in matter is a chemical or physical change when you're really not sure based on what you're seeing? We have 4 evidences for a chemical reaction that will help us to determine whether or not a change of matter is in fact a chemical change. First, the evolution of a gas. This is where you're not boiling water. Take a look at the bottom left picture here. Vinegar and baking soda mix together and they produce bubbles, or fizzing is something that I hear students often say. No heat has been applied and simply a gas is being evolved, meaning it's being released. This is definitely an indication of a chemical reaction. A second evidence for a chemical reaction is a change in temperature. This is not when you place something in the refrigerator or put it on the stove. In fact, this is where you mix 2 room temperature chemicals and suddenly your beaker or test tube feel hot or cold. You can only tell this by feeling. There are no good pictures to show. Color changes also indicate a chemical reaction. If you take a look at the bottom middle picture, we have 2 chemicals mixed together. One is yellow in color and one is completely clear and transparent. When the 2 are mixed together, a color change occurs and we start seeing a red liquid form. If we were to shake that rightmost test tube, the entire test tube will eventually turn red. The formation of a precipitate is our 4th and final evidence for a chemical reaction. This is where a solid product is formed. We can shorten the word precipitate for the letters PPT. If you take a look at the bottom right-hand picture on this screen, you'll notice that this flask is holding a clear liquid and another liquid has been mixed in with it. But look at this foamy, thick-looking solid that's falling to the bottom. That's what we call a precipitate. Now, we normally think of precipitate as liquid, like precipitation, as in rain for weather. But when we're in chemistry class, the precipitate is a solid that is formed when 2 liquids are mixed together, or a liquid and a gas.